Welcome, everyone. I'm Brother Doug. This is my sister Shoshana, our brother Dennis, and our sister Sally are with us today. We are the Wakened by Yahuwah Assembly and Yahuwah Almighty and Yahushua Messiah. We are doing a study today called How Does Transhumanism Connect to End Times Prophecy? This is going to be a study where we're going to read from and try to really get down to the nitty-gritty with this stuff. We're going to try to figure out, okay, so we know about, there's going to be one scripture I'm going to start with here is going to kind of build a foundation on how these two things connect, how transhumanism connects to the end times. So I think we're going to start here with Daniel chapter 2, verse 43. So I'm going to go to my eSword now. Let me just make sure my share screen is going to be working. And I should, let's see here. That's kind of weird. It's not even, okay. Let's see here. Maybe I'll just read from, let's see here. For some reason, my eSword is not recognized right now. That's kind of weird. Okay. It's kind of,
share screen is not coming up.
yeah, I'm looking for the eSword. Usually it gives me options what page to share on the share screen, and the eSword is not one of the options. All right, so I guess I'm going to have to read it from my phone here, on my sword here.
I can read it if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, actually. Yeah, I try to fix this.
And as you saw iron mix with muddy clay, they are mixing themselves with the seed of men, but they are not clinging to each other, even as iron does not mix with clay.
Yep, and as Shoshana just read, that is Daniel chapter 2, verse 43. And for people that don't understand maybe the terminology there about mingling, usually when mingling is referred to in that type of context, it's talking about a sexual action. Okay, it's talking about another kind of species other than the sons of men are going to mingle themselves with the seed of the sons of men. So you have two different seeds, two different kinds intermingling with one another sexually. So kind of like where we're going to read here from Genesis 6. So that's going to build a foundation here of what the context is about this, which in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 to 4, I believe I'm going to be reading here. Let me just see here. Yeah, so here we go. Genesis 6, 1 to 4 says, here we go. I'll use the ISR here. And it came to be when men began to increase on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men that they were tube, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. Yep. Hope you feel better, Mom.
Thanks.
And Yahuwah said, my spirit shall not. I'm going to change versions here because I find it interesting that it says here, and Yahuwah Elohim said, so this is Septuagint here, my spirit shall certainly not remain among these men forever, because they are flesh, but their days shall be 120 years. Now this is important because this is showing the difference here. His spirit is not going to be with these men. Why? Because they corrupted themselves. They did stuff they were not supposed to do. You know, you have these daughters of mankind that had sex with angels in the prior couple of verses here. So you have the sons of Elohim, and in the Septuagint, the angels of Elohim went into the daughters of men. So that's why in the next verse, Yahuwah is saying his spirit's not going to remain among these individuals of mankind, these certain people that have corrupted themselves. The majority of mankind at that point of human history was corrupting themselves, except for one family on the earth, Noah and his family. And then it says, now the giants were upon the earth in those days, and after that. So this is why I I'm going to admit I don't really have support for the two incursion theory, but this is why I believe that there's two incursions, and I want to make it clear. I don't believe that there's a second incursion post-flood. I believe both of them happened before the flood. So I don't want people, trolling on the comments here saying on the videos saying that I believe in a second incursion after the flood already happened. No, I don't believe in that, but I do believe there was two incursions. I believe both happened in the days of Jared. That's my opinion. But it says, and after that, that's why I believe in two incursions. When the sons of Elohim, so what's the after that? The sons of Elohim were wanted to go into the daughters of men. They bore children to them. Those were the giants of old, the men of renown. And not to go on a rabbit trail, but you'll see in Greek mythology, there's an account of certain women actually were not forcibly taken by the Watchers, who are known as the gods of Olympus in Greek mythology. So some women were okay with it and actually fell in love with these fallen angels. And then other women were forcefully taken. So there's two different accounts. So that's why I believe in two incursions. But anyway, that's kind of like a sidetrack note, but I just kind of wanted to explain myself just in case people were going to falsely accuse me of something.
And there's another account, and I forget what book it's in. It says that many of the women were forcibly taken from their husbands.
Yep, that is, I believe, let's see here. I think I had that here. That's Jasher. I think it might actually be it's either Jasher or Jubilees. Let's see here.
I think it's Jasher.
Yeah, so, all right, so let's go in order here. We can go to Jasher first. I have it cited down here from the document, Jasher 4:18, which says, now this is something I want to note too, go back to the E-sword here, because people will say, well, that just says judges and rulers. That doesn't say angels. If you look into the original Hebrew for Elohim, when it says in Psalms chapter 82, I say that you are Elohim, plural, lower A, Elohim. Okay, so you are mighty ones, and you are sons of the Most High. If you look up that word Elohim, it can also mean judges and rulers, just for people that want to say that this is not talking about angels in verse 18 of Jasher 4. Their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men and took their wives by force. Notice how it says by force from their husbands. So their husbands were present when this happened. Their husbands just couldn't do anything about it. And it says, according to their choice, and the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth and the beasts of the field, and fowls of the air. Here we go. Here's the hybridization. And taught the mixture of animals of one species with the other in order therewith to provoke Yahuwah. And Elohim saw the whole earth, and it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way. This is important because this gives us a context of what we just read from Genesis 6. Why was the whole earth corrupted? Why did all flesh corrupt itself? Because they were mixing species. That's why it's corrupt. This is not just talking about regular sin. Like the Christian interpretation of Genesis 6 will be, oh, they were just committing adultery and this and that, and they were just doing regular sin and the flood came. No. Jasher gives you the little in-between information you need to understand the context of what it means by all flesh had corrupted itself of Genesis 6. Okay, so then it says, and Yahuwah said, I will blot out man that I created from the face of the earth, yea, from man to the birds of the air. Now we understand why he's getting rid of animals that did nothing, because these animals, against their own will, were being blended with humans, and they became corrupt themselves. I will blot out man that I created from the face of the earth, yea, from man to the birds of the air, together with cattle and beasts that are in the field, for I repent that I made them. And all men who walked in the ways of Yahuwah died in those days before Yahuwah brought the evil upon man, which he had declared for This was from Yahuwah, that they should not see the evil. So when you have family members that are believers, keep this in mind. This is a baraka from Yahuwah. I know a lot of people say, you know, why do the two die young? So that they don't see the destruction. So sometimes Yahuwah spares anyone, you know, that can relate to this, have family members that are true believers that have died young for no reason. This is a reason right here in Jasher. He didn't want them to see what the destruction was coming upon the earth with the flood. He did this for their sake. So they would see not the evil which Yahuwah spoke of concerning the sons of men, and Noah found mercy in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah chose him and his children to raise up seed from upon the face of the whole earth. So again, Noah's family is the only pure family genetically of that time period on earth. So that's another reason he was chosen, not just because he was righteous and blameless, but because he was tamim, perfect genetically.
And Doug, you know, I've heard of people die when people die in this time. Like my cousin died not too long ago, and I thought, well, he's really Baruch because he will not see the Great Tribulation. I was just thinking of what you were talking about, because this fits right in with people dying before the Great Tribulation these days.
Yeah, and people that die right now won't be alive during the day of Yahuwah. I mean, a lot of people that are believers that will be dead in Messiah, they won't have to worry about whether or not they would be counted worthy, because, you know, they died. You know, it's kind of like, you know, they died before the day of Yahuwah happened. So, you know, I was talking to my mom the other day about that. I was like, a lot of our family members that are believers that passed away already, they're very baruch for that. They don't have to worry about, you know, enduring all the way into the end times. So, you know, in that way, they're baruch. So yeah, I agree 100%. The last one I wanted to mention was, which connects with Jasher and Jubilees, is Enoch 7:5, which shows you who was teaching mankind the mixture of the species. It says here in Enoch 7:5, and they began to sin. Let me actually, let me see here. Let me actually go to verse 3 and 4, actually, because that gives the context. Who consumed all the acquisitions of men, the giants, the titans, and when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind, and they began to sin against the birds, who? The giants, and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth
very wicked
laid accusation against the lawless one. So if you connect all three extra biblical texts together, the giants taught that to humans. Humans started doing that, and that's why we have in Genesis 6, Yahuwah's fed up at that point. He's like, all right, all this hybridization, nope, I'm getting rid of this earth, you know, the people on this earth, and I'm restarting after the flood, because it got to the point where the imaginations of men's minds were completely evil. There was no such thing as love probably in their hearts, which I actually want to show a little picture here to kind of get people to understand this. I don't know if any of the viewers or listeners have ever seen the movie The Amazing Spider-Man, but there's a creature in that movie. What happens is this doctor wants to regrow his limb through science, and he takes lizard DNA. He injects his arm, and from doing that, he gets his arm grown back. Yeah, great. You know, but later on in the movie, he becomes this giant evil lizard creature from doing that. So, and, you know, even Hollywood gets it, what was happening back then. They understand. So, you know, if I could see if I can show a picture, what was it? The lizard from Spider-Man 3. Let's see here. Just to get lizard from
there it is, the lizard man.
Amazing Spider-Man. Let's see here. Yeah, so this is what happened. His name is Dr. Kurt Connors. Okay, he starts off as a normal human, and he had a limb that, you know, was cut off, and he wanted to regrow his limb through science, through researching different species. He injects his arm, and it regrows back with the lizard DNA, but the lizard DNA turns him into this. Okay, turns him into a huge lizard creature, like a monster. And he only has evil intentions continually. Could that be what was happening in Jasher and Jubilees and Enoch and what Yahuwah is referencing in Genesis 6? Very possible.
Undoubtedly.
You know, so that's something we need to look at when we talk about transhumanism. This is transhumanism. It might not be man with machine, but it's man with lizard. It's the same type of idea. So that's something we need to think about when you see in the news human DNA being mixed with pig DNA and all this stuff that's happening as we speak. So now let's go to some other scriptures here that show that hybrids are returning in the end times. I'm going to go to Isaiah chapter 13 from the Septuagint and show you the difference that the Masoretic text doesn't show here. In your Masoretic text in verse 3, it would just say my mighty ones, because unfortunately they combined these two verses from the Septuagint in the Masoretic text. They're actually two different things he's talking about. He's talking about one verse, he's talking about bringing Nephilim back to fulfill his wrath. And then he talks about his Hadashim in another verse. What happened with the Masoretic text is they translate Giberim as mighty ones instead of giants, and they combine it with the other verse, and it's very confusing the way the Masoretic text has it. So I'll show you how the Septuagint makes it a little clearer. Verse 3 of Isaiah 13 says, I give command, so Yahuwah himself is doing this, and I bring them. Giants are coming to fulfill my wrath, rejoicing at the same time and insulting. And then it goes on later on, a couple of verses later, and let's see here, it talks about a war. Okay, so here we go. Then the next verse says, a voice of many nations on the mountains, even like to that of many nations, a voice of kings and nations gathered together. Yahuwah of armies has given command to a warlike nation to come from a land afar off, from the utmost foundation of heaven. Yahuwah and his warriors are coming to destroy all the world. Now, this is talking about the Kadashim. Verse 5 is talking about us, or those that would be, in the first resurrection, the 144,000, his Kadashim, his warriors, So the Septuagint at least separates it, which I like, because the Masoretic text, they try to include it all in one verse, and they leave out, and they mistranslate giants too. So, I mean, that makes it a little confusing there. But also in verse 21 to 22 of the same chapter has something very interesting. I would insert to you that what we call Greek mythology is not really mythology, and I'll show you why here. In the scriptures, it has the word satyrs in these verses. Okay, it says Isaiah 13:21, but wild beasts shall dwell there, and houses shall be filled with howling, and monsters shall rest there, and devils shall dance there. And satyrs, verse 22 says satyrs in the Septuagint, shall dwell there, and hedgehogs shall make their nests in their houses. It will come soon and will not tarry. Now this chapter's End Times Babylon. This is judgment of Babylon. So this has not even happened yet. There's going to be satyrs coming back, giants coming back, demons are going to dance there. I don't even know how we would be able to see that, but since they're spirits, but I guess somehow they're going to be, we'll be able to see demonic spirits dancing there. That's kind of weird. I ain't going to lie. That's a bit strange there. But it's very interesting how you see all these creatures that we think are mythological, like monsters and satyrs, are actually going to be there in the end times. Let's see here. I also have, let's go to Genesis 6:3. We already read that actually, yeah. So let's go to Isaiah 14:21, which talks about Satan or Nimrod possibly having children. Okay? So, prepare your children to be slain for the sins of their father. Instead of the Masoretic text saying fathers, this is singular. That they arise not and inherit the earth, nor fill the earth with wars. Now, this could be either or, in my opinion. I'm not too much of a stickler on this, the interpretation of this verse. It could be talking about Satan's children or Nimrod's children. Either way, Isaiah 14 traditionally has been attributed to Satan, but if you read the book of Jasher yourself, it will kind of hint to that Halal is actually Nimrod. And that all the people that were building the Tower of Babel said, they will ascend up into heaven, and, the 5 I wills and stuff like that. So, I mean, you can look that up for yourself. It's in the book of Jasher. So that's just something I wanted to mention real quick. It might be in the clips that we have to show later on. We got some video clips to show where I think Rob Skiba actually cites it in his video, what chapter and verse from Jasher. But anyway, so that could be either Satan's children or Nimrod's children. It really doesn't matter. Either way, one of them has physical children. So that, either way, that's hybridized, seed. You got Nimrod, who began to be a giant, and I'll just prove that real quick. In Genesis 10 of the Septuagint, it says right here in, verse 8 here, says, and Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a giant upon the earth, and he was a giant hunter before Yahuwah Elohim. Therefore they say, as Nimrod the giant hunter before Yahuwah. Now I've heard, or some people have said that before is actually a mistranslation, that it's supposed to be against. So that's something I would like to check real quick from the Strongs here. So face, face Yahuwah. Interesting, yeah. It's kind of interesting. If you take it that way, he's like coming up against him, yeah, to face him. That is kind of interesting. I ain't gonna lie. That's I think my brother Dennis actually alluded to that one time in one of our previous studies. Yeah, face, fear of. It can mean favor, but there's a lot of other definitions for this word. One of the prime definitions would be face, to face. As the part that turns. So that's kind of interesting. So I would kind of agree with that. That B4 is kind of deceptive to translate it like that. If it was translated as face, this is how it would read. He was a giant hunter, meaning he hunted giants before Yahuwah. Or he was a giant hunter face Yahuwah, like he was against Yahuwah. So that, yeah, I kind of agree with that interpretation. That makes a little bit more sense than me, that he would be before Yahuwah, like he's serving Yahuwah when he's corrupted himself. I mean, that to me doesn't make any logical sense, especially the prior verse in the Septuagint says he began to be a giant. So he began to be a giant before he was a hunter, a giant hunter. So yeah, I don't think he was serving Yahuwah at that point. So I would definitely agree with the translation of face versus before. Definitely, in my opinion. Let's see here what we got. We got Matthew 24:37-39. That reminds us what happened is going to happen again, and that we should pay attention to what happens in the day of Noah, which includes the hybridization and all that. Genesis 6:4, like we just read before. So here we go. He says, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man, or Ben Ha'adam, be. So again, this is Yahushua's own warning. It's telling us what happened in those days are going to happen again. And even for more support is Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9 comes to mind here. where it says the thing that which has been is that which shall be, and that which is done is which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Meaning, technology that we have now was there before, and probably was more advanced beforehand. If you research yourself, the lost city of Atlantis and ancient civilizations, they had a lot of better technology than we have now. So
we know of.
Yeah, that we know of. So who knows? We might be getting back to Atlantis already. You know, the government behind the scenes might be doing something, but I don't really know. All I know is that usually the technology the government has is usually they only tell us half of what they really have. So let me just get back to the share screen here and see where. All right, so now we're up to.
We know they have directed energy beams. We know they have that. They use those to start the fires in California. And Dennis and I watched them, and you could see where they shot the beams out and the fire started.
Wow.
Yes, I think I saw that in one of the videos. What did you call those beams again?
Directed energy beams.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yep. So the next part of this study is the hive mind portion of the transhumanism, that eventually this is, I believe, how Satan is going to implement the hive mind, the one mind with the beast, in my opinion. I believe that AI is a perfect tool for Satan to use, and that's probably why he's using technology, is that it's so easy to use to get people to want to be connected into the internet and connected into one supercomputer. You know, people are going to actually want it. They're not going to have to be forced to take the mark, because they're going to think it's an upgrade. You know, Revelation 17:13 says, "These have one mind, and they shall give their power and strength unto the beast, unto Nimrod," the anti-Messiah. So they're going to give basically their power, their authority unto the beast, and they have one mind to serve the beast. I kind of like how, I think it's one of these translations actually says they have one purpose. The English majority text, which is the majority text is a different Greek manuscript than the King James, so there's like little differences in wordage. But I kind of find it interesting how it says these have one purpose, like that's their purpose. It's kind of interesting. Another one where we kind of see a precursor to this in the end times is when Nimrod was first on the earth in Genesis 11:6. So we're going to go there next, where Genesis chapter 11 verse 6 says, let's see here. Let's start earlier in the chapter here, I think. Let's start at, verse 2. "And it came to pass, as they removed from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And a man said to his neighbor, Come, let us make bricks and bake them with fire. And the brick was to them for stone, and their mortar was bitumen." Okay. "And they said, Come, let us build to ourselves a city and tower, whose top shall be to heaven. And let us make to ourselves a name before we are scattered abroad upon the face of the earth. And Yahuwah came down to see the city and tower which the sons of men have built. And Yahuwah said, Behold, there is one people," or one ethnos, "and one lip of all. They have
one language."
Yeah, so the Septuagint says one lip of all, one language. And they have begun to do this, and now nothing shall fall from them of all that they have undertaken to do. So even the Septuagint shows that Yahuwah knew that they could physically at least get into heaven. Whether or not, they would even stand a chance against him, obviously, I don't think so. But he knew that it was not withheld from them to get into the heavenly realm by using this. And that's why I believe, according to the book of Jasher, it says that their plan was to literally get into the highest heaven, not just the sky. but the highest heaven. So in my opinion, no tower can be that tall. I'm sorry, I don't care. Even if you build it on a plain or on a mountain, you're not going to reach up into the third heaven. I'm sorry, I don't buy that interpretation of that's what it was. It was just like bricks and mortar, and that's all it was. I think somehow they built a ziggurat. This is just conjecture, but I believe they somehow built it, even though it had bricks and mortar, but somehow they built it in a way, and they had some type of technology to make that tower into like a Stargate. And that's the only way I could see them doing what they thought they could do in their own minds. In the book of Jasher, it talks about they wanted to get into the third heaven and kill Yahuwah and kill Yahusha and literally set up their own mighty ones in heaven. So, I mean, for them to think that, that means they had to be building something that wasn't just a regular physical building or tower. It had to be some type of, ziggurat or something. That's more of a theory of mine, but it makes a lot of sense when you look into the book of Jasher and what their thoughts were. But anyway, so Genesis 11:6 talks about they had one mind and their imaginations, just like it says in Genesis 6 that they dwelt on evil continually. Okay, so that's obviously connected to the hybridization, obviously, as we talked about before. That they were no longer just humans. So it says, and this is another lie that is connected to transhumanism, in my opinion, is Genesis 3, verse 6. Says, for Elohim knew that in whatever day you should eat of it, your eyes would be opened, and you would be as deities, as mighty ones, knowing good and evil. So Genesis 3:6 is showing that Satan is tempting Kua and Adam, saying he doesn't want you to be like him. He doesn't want you to be your own mighty ones. He doesn't want you to worship yourself instead of him. So Satan's trying to put all these things in their heads, like you could be your own mighty one. You don't need to worship the creator and all this stuff. And this is what transhumanism, even in modern day, is all about. That they can build their own deities by making an artilect. Okay, so, and you'll see later on when we show the clips that I have prepared from Mythology and the Great Deception documentary and another documentary. So you'll see that there's proof from the scientists themselves, them saying it themselves. That's what their purpose is with making cyborgs.
Another thing that I was thinking about, Doug, is how would they enter the heavenly realm unless they had some type of self-contained breathing device, like scuba gear? And it's very, very possible they did.
Yeah, I would not put anything past them at that point in time. There might have been some stuff left over. I mean, according to the theory of the, if we kind of just take it at face value, Atlantis had the highest technology that we could even think of at that point in time when the Watchers were on Earth doing what they were doing, sitting and causing people to worship them. And Atlantis was known as, according to the occultists, was their kingdom. So, I mean, who's to say that some technology wasn't left over from the flood somehow? Who's to say that, they didn't find some type of technology to do what they did? According to Clement of Alexandria, who was a Roman Catholic Church father, Nimrod found something to do. He found some literature talking about how to control demons, kind of like the Lesser Key of Solomon book. So, I mean, I'm just saying there could have been some literature, there could have been some possible technology that maybe it sunk down to the ocean, but it didn't get fully destroyed because the flood didn't utterly destroy the earth. We're still on the first earth. So I think people kind of take that out of context when they say, well, the whole earth was destroyed. Not really. The inhabitants of the earth were destroyed. And the flood destroyed all the land animals and stuff like that and destroyed most of the creatures. But it didn't exactly destroy the actual Eretz. So stuff could have been left behind. I mean, this is just my theory. This is conjecture. I really don't know, but I just kind of find it interesting that, you know, Yahuwah said it's not withheld from them to get into the heavenly realm. So somehow they would have been able to do it unless he confounded the languages. So anyway, but
that's what he did.
yeah, so, you know, and that's probably why he did that. He realized, okay, well, if I don't do that, I'm going to have to kill my own creation, because eventually they would have gotten up there, they would have tried to make war with him and the angels of Yahuwah's angels. They would have tried to make war, and Yahuwah's angels would have been forced to defend Yahuwah and Yahusha, so they would have been killing, like, you know, mankind. So, you know, out of self-defense. I mean, you know, so Yahuwah obviously didn't want that. He's merciful. He didn't want his creation to be destroyed. You know, he didn't want he didn't want mankind to be utterly obliterated, you know, after the flood. So, you know, he did that out of mercy in a way. He confused the languages out of mercy, you know.
He already had a plan to save Noah and his family. And that was the plan that he intended to instigate, and therefore he had to put an end to this vain imagination of theirs to come up there and kill him, which would not have succeeded.
Yeah, definitely. So let me see here. I think we have just enough time to finish the scripture verses here, and then on part 2 we'll actually get into the video clips. Let me see here. Psalms 140, 1-2 is one of the last 2 cross references I have here. So let's see. Psalms 140, 1-2, which says, okay, 140, 1-2. For the end, a psalm of David. Rescue me, O Yahuwah, from the evil man. Deliver me from the unrighteous man who has devised, meaning has thought up, injustice or unright ruling, I guess you would say, in their hearts. All the day they prepared war. Now that's interesting. So preparing for war is connected to having devised evil things in their hearts. Now this goes back to they were thinking about evil continually. And so it's kind of interesting there in Psalms 141-2, David is praying to Yahuwah saying, protect me from these wicked men that are devising evil in their hearts. So that's kind of a little connection there I have with Genesis 6:5, evil imaginations continually. And then let's see, we have Matthew 24:21-22. If he does not intervene, or the Father Yahuwah does not intervene, no flesh would be saved. And again, that goes back to hybridization and the cohabitation possibly happening again in the end times with the Daniel 2:43 that we just read earlier. So Matthew 24:21 says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. For the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So the days weren't shortened, we even have an elect of the Father. So that's very important to take note there, that he's shorting basically the tribulations so that there would be an elect. There would be chosen ones for him to save. Because if he allows us to go as far as we're going to go with this transhumanism stuff, we're going to destroy ourselves. And unfortunately, that's what mankind has done up to this point. They have destroyed themselves. We have destroyed ourselves with using technology and all this other stuff. So Luke 21:25-26 is the last one I have here. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. So that is a clear warning. We need to stay away from transhumanism, stay away from this hybridization, so that Yahuwah and Yahusha can dwell with us, so the set-apart spirit can dwell in us, because if not, Like it says in Genesis 6, he will not dwell with man.